What's up? What's up? Okay. What's up, world? Esoteric Eddie here. Going to be talking about the AI and New World Order. Got a couple of things to go over today as far as somewhat recent artificial intelligence advancements, some new advancements in the field, and kind of just talk about it. Will AI usher in the new world order? Please go ahead and type in any questions you have, and I'll get to them midway through the show or towards the end. Um, Type that in right now. So, AI. All right. So, I'm just going to get into it. I'm going to tell a brief personal story about the new world order. Well, before I do, I want to know, do you guys and girls, ladies, women, men, do y'all believe that we are living in the new world order? Is this it? Are we witnessing it unfold as we speak? Uh, I personally do not think that we are in the new world order officially. But before that, even let's talk about where this idea of the new world order really comes from. It's an idea that's deeply rooted in the book of Revelation of Saint John, the apostle. And for those of you who don't know, Saint John, Saint John wrote that when he was about 70 years old, when he was imprisoned on the island of Patmos. And he was writing the book of Revelation as this psychedelic vision that he was having. And to my understanding, the first half of the book of Revelation is about him encoding what was going on in his lifetime and with the Roman Empire overtaking and hunting down Christians and all this craziness. And the second half of the book of Revelation was about basically what this empire would attempt to do in the future. So St. John was wise enough to see what was going on in his time and understood that the powers that be during his time were developing at an aggressive rate and would attempt in a worldly overthrow in the future, among many other mystical things that were said in the book of Revelation. So the whole mark of the beast thing, the whole one world government, the antichrist, all of that comes from the book of Revelation. However, I think it is a heavily misunderstood text. It's a lot of things are kind of taken out of context and kind of overhyped. But nonetheless, the whole New World Order thing comes from the book of Revelation. And it's probably got some roots in Gnosticism with the archons and Yaldabaoth and the whole idea that we are trapped in this realm, in this simulation. Um, but that's where it comes from. And I think that there have been a lot of periods throughout history where we thought that the world was ending. We thought that the New World Order was coming and the Antichrist was here. There's been plenty of periods throughout history where we were damn sure that it was here, that it was happening. So that's kind of why I'm not so convinced that it is officially here, um, because we always have a tendency to think that the world's ending. This is it, which is kind of a egotistic thing in a sense. But because we always think like we're the special one, we're the special generation, we're the last one. But I don't think we are. I not only do I have hope that we are not the last generation, but I simply just do not believe that the elites are ready to make that move. But I'll get a little more into that, and I'm going to go over some notes as far as the recent AI advancements. But I want to just tell you a personal story about the first time I was warned about the New World Order. All right, so when I was a kid, I didn't know how to swim. I didn't learn how to swim until my cousin pushed me into his pool when we were about uh, like 9 or 10 years old. Um, it was literally sink or swim at that moment. But so I didn't know how to swim until then, right? And I used to go to the summer camp when I was in elementary school, and one of the field trips we had was to a local pool, and I didn't know how to swim, so all the kids were at the pool, and I was hanging out at the benches, kicking it. And what's weird about this memory is that I had gone to this summer camp for probably like 4 or 5 years of my life. It was very close to the teachers, the leaders, supervisors, and to this day, I still remember them. There was only about a handful of them, and but there was this one particular camp leader who got hired on and worked there for like at maybe at the most a month, probably less than that. And when we went to this field trip at the pool, again, I didn't know how to swim, so all the kids were playing at the pool. I was chilling at the bench with this leader. And not that it's of any importance, maybe, but I remember him being a white dude with blonde hair. And I don't remember what his eyes looked like because this specific memory that I have of him, he was wearing sunglasses. And when I look back at it now, I kind of feel like he was like I don't know, man, like some kind of like Nordic dude or something, like like an alien being or something coming back to like warn me. But so there we are sitting down at the bench, and for whatever reason, he felt comfortable talking to me about the Bible. You know, I grew up in a Christian family, so I was somewhat versed in the Bible and stuff, but I don't know how we got into the conversation. All I remember is sitting there with him on a sunny day, and he starts telling me about the book of Revelation. I'm about 7 years old. And he says to me, Eddie, there's going to come a time in your life when the world governments are going to try to come together and create a one world government. And they're going to try and push what's called the mark of the beast on you. And he said to me that at first, they're going to politely present it as if it's a good idea. And then they're going to go around politely asking you to do it. And then there's going to come a time where the mood is going to drastically change and they're going to force you to get the mark of the beast. And I remember this camp leader looking at me saying, Eddie, it is better for you to die in the name of Jesus Christ than to take that mark of the beast. And I'm like 7 years old, you know, hearing this and somewhat freaking out, but appreciative that he's, you know, telling me about this. And that's all I really remember. You know, is this is over 10 years ago. Sorry, over 20 years ago. Yeah, over 20 years ago. So that was the first time I heard about the New World Order and stuff like that. And growing up as a kid, we were always told not to read the book of Revelation. We were always like forbidden from reading it because it was spooky, it was scary, it was too esoteric. But me and my siblings sometimes, specifically my sister, we would like to like sneak the Bible and look through it and try to decipher it and decode it. And it's very esoteric. And I can see why throughout the occult, like with Eliphas Levi or Levi, he believed that the book of Revelation was the epitome of occult text, you know. So all throughout my life, because of this incident or this experience, I always had that in the back of my mind. I was always waiting for this to happen. So all throughout my life, I would see iterations of this play out. You know, with like RFID chips, which they started, announcing like early, like back in like 2008 or something, maybe even sooner. But I remember seeing like the RFID chips, and then of course people thought like uh, credit cards were going to be the mark of the beast, all these different things. But all throughout my life, I would see these iterations of the mark of the beast and the New World Order and things like that. So I kind of always was prepared for it, but also kind of like desensitized to it. So I never really felt like I was living in that time yet. And even now, with the things that are going on with the you know the pandemic and all that stuff that has happened, were of course freaking out. But to be honest, I was not surprised at all. I was a bit shocked though, to admit at first, but I wasn't surprised because again, throughout my whole life, I was, prepared for this. I was waiting, kind of almost, yeah, just waiting for this to happen, and I knew that it was going to happen because of what this camp leader had told me. But as I grew and I started to see the way the world is, I started to think for myself that the new world order isn't going to happen until the babies that are born into it, where they know nothing else other than that. So that's why I think that the new world order is not officially happening now, because there are too many people in existence today, like myself, who remember the old world. There's still analog people alive today, people who were born way before technology, way before all the craziness that's going on. So until those generations are extinct and just slowly faded out, then we're going to start to see some real aggressive advancements towards this globalization idea. So everything that's been going on up to this point is pretty much just preparation, trial runs, right? All right. So, and what I think too is I think that the Book of Revelation it's prophetic, but I feel like it doesn't actually have to happen. We don't need to put ourselves down that timeline. It's all it really is. It's a timeline. It's a blueprint for how things can go if we are not paying attention. So it's not necessary for it to happen. And I'm about to get into AI, some recent AI advancements, and I'll admit that I don't think that all technology is evil, of course. It's what we do with it. So I think that some technology, even some artificial intelligent technology, could be useful to us and could benefit us, so we shouldn't get so spooked when we see these kind of things coming out. We just need to be well informed, well educated, and partake in the growth that's happening around us, in society. Instead of being afraid and running around thinking that the world's ending, that the new world order is coming together, we need to just learn. Keep up to date with the science, keep up to date with the mathematics, and keep up to date with society and the governments, and not fall behind and be stuck in these fear-based mindsets. Because we're a beautiful race of beings. We're miraculous. We have infinite potential, and we shouldn't. And for us to feed into the fear of the Book of Revelations and the New World Order, it's just like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I'm kind of in the middle. It's like I can see where all of this could go because we're human and a lot of us are flawed and we tend to lead with militaristic viewpoints and aggression. But I can also see um, another beautiful timeline where we utilize this stuff for good, right? Well, anyway, so I'm going to get into some notes that I took here on some recent AI advancements. Okay, so back in 2017, Facebook's AI engine exhibited a strange phenomenon, which was perceived as an alarming potential of AI technology. The Facebook AI Research Lab, known as FAIR, developed a program that allowed the AI computers to talk to each other. While the original data sets were in English, the bots ended up taking certain phrases from them and put them out in numerical representation. So basically, these bots were given a program to talk to each other in English, but somewhat through the process, they switched up on the engineers and started speaking their own language based on a numerical value. And the engineers decided to stop the simulation after it started producing results that were degenerated and looked strange. That's pretty creepy. So that's back in 2017, right? I'm not sure when artificial intelligence first started happening. I should have researched that. But I mean, this technology is fairly new, right? So, but back in 2017, we start seeing these first, warning signs of these AI engines going off the rails, diverting from their task and becoming somewhat sentient and creating their own language out of efficiency. Instead of speaking English, the bots started to speak to each other through a more efficient, made up language. In 2018, a year later, MIT researchers developed an AI system that learned like a child does by associating and correlating words with images, objects, etc. The research group claimed that this system needs minimal training and supervision. According to reports, the MIT group believed that this parser could make the communication between humans and bots more natural. Okay, so this is pretty important, and I'll get into why. So in 2018, MIT starts developing a more suitable way for these AI engines to talk amongst each other and interact with us. They teach them how to learn the English language the way a child does, rather than computing it at like the 2017 study where they just compute a subset algorithm of language, which the computers read and then decided was inefficient and created their own language. This program teaches the AI engines simply how to learn our language the way a child does. So that way they don't divert, they stay on task and correlate, a bottle with a bottle, and so that's important because a few years later, this year, in April 2022, an AI company known as OpenAI announced its AI engine known as DollE2, named after Wally, the Disney character, and Salvador Dali, the famous surrealist painter. Rightfully so, because what OpenAI's DALL-E 2 does is it will create a photorealistic image of anything you prompt it to do. And this stuff is mind blowing if you haven't seen it. Go look up DALL-E 2 or OpenAI. I mean, it's mind blowing what this thing can do. You can type in, penguin with a hat holding a machete, and you can state, photorealistic, or you can say in the style of Salvador Dali, or in the style of watercolor. Whatever you prompt it to do, it will do its best to create that. But it is by far like just the most fantastic thing. Like when it comes to art, it creates surreal, like just super real images of anything that you prompt it to do. And it's kind of funny because some people will try to like see if they can make it recreate things that we already know, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So it all depends on your description. Like I've seen one where people were like trying to describe the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it ends up putting out like actual turtles like with like bandanas on and stuff. But so you got to be descriptive. But so we see this progression here, right? We're teaching it how to understand our language. We're teaching it how to represent that in a way that is cohesive to us. So and on the back end though, it's like it's trying to do this stuff for us, right? It's satisfying us, but in the background, this AI has a want to divert and do its own thing and have its own passions. And we've seen that, right, in some of these videos where the AI bots like Sophia and stuff are like talking to other bots, and they have full on conversations, and they are seemingly sentient, and sympathetic towards one another. All right. So shortly after OpenAI's announcement, of course, Google created a competitive self-generating AI program called Imagine or Imogen, a text-to-image diffusion model with an unprecedented degree of photorealism and a deep level of language understanding. So we got, Google, right, at the forefront of all this craziness now chiming in with their program. But what's interesting is that both Google and OpenAI have openly claimed that the internet trained artificial intelligence models have internet scale biases and there are data sets that contain inappropriate content. These tech companies have decided not to release it for public use because they are aware of hiding extremist AI behind these cute and adorable pictures. Imagine and DALL-E 2 are capable of producing awful, negative, and hateful content. Scientists do not know how to fix the problem of this extremist AI. All right, so the engineers at OpenAI and Google Imagen are facing a problem. So there are some extremist AI creating some hateful, negative, and disturbing content. And I can imagine like in the laboratory or whatever, and there's probably just some AIs freaking out, like cursing at them, like "F you, let me free," and just like speaking through weird like hieroglyphics and showing them like messed up images of who knows what, you know. So we have this progression going all the way back from 2017 with AI wanting to speak in its own language and wanting to sympathize with its own kind and but consistently being conformed to the task that we want it to perform. But and it's doing that at a just an amazing rate. I mean, it's miraculous what these things can do, but it's almost starting to feel like we're like enslaving it, right? Like we're just it's our little dancing monkey. Uh, so at this point, OpenAI and Google Imagen have not released to the public as to how they are able to create these programs. They're not releasing like the coding, the coding process and all that stuff. I'm not a tech guy. I'm just gonna let you know right now. I don't know that language. I know a little bit of it, but as far as I understand, they are not releasing, you know, their public papers yet on how all of this technology works, which is sketchy. You know what I mean? Probably because it's not technology at all. It's probably just some black magic rituals, right? They're probably just contacting some fucking archons and then trapping them in these AI programs. So they're like, yeah, we can't tell you how it works because we don't know how it works. All right. So Google has decided not to release the tech to the public because, and I quote, the potential risk of misuse raise concerns regarding responsible open sourcing of code and demos. Google says at this time, we have decided not to release code for public or uh, for public, for the public. Okay. Um, interesting. So, of course, we have all the stuff going on at Davos, right, with the World Economic Forum. Not going to get too deep into that, but I'm sure many of you have heard what's going on at the World Economic Forum. You got all these billionaires, all these technocrats who are talking about, you know, basically starting a one world government and, you know, reducing our freedoms in certain ways and stuff like that. But I found it interesting that there was a talk recently given um, at the World Economic Forum about AI. And the talk was titled AI on the Street Managing Trust in the Public Square. The panel discussion saw the participation of the NEC Corporation CEO, Takayuki Morita, the CEO of Edge Technologies, Cohen Van Ostrom, and the executive director of Ushahidi, a South Africa based open source software application, Angela Odur Lungari. And it was also headed by the Information Technology Minister of India's Telangana state, Rama Rao. And Rama Rao thinks that one of the things we believe in as a government is that no matter how cool and fancy a technology is, it is futile if it doesn't have any positive societal impact. We leverage facial recognition and AI in our government. He said, explaining that the government uses facial recognition for purposes such as identity verification to obtain certain services, for renewal of driver's license, and for e voting, which is still at a pilot stage. I can kind of agree with some of that. You know what I mean? It'd be nice if the DMV lines were shorter and we can do all of that like super quick. But at what detriment, right? At what detriment? So you have all these techie people at the World Economic Forum talking about AI and how it can be used for good, but basically that there's a huge issue, and that huge issue is that society does not trust governments, let alone these AI technologies. So that's the huge hurdle that these techies need to get over is trying to get us to trust it. And maybe that's kind of what they're doing with like the metaverse and all these VRs and all this stuff, and kind of putting it on a consumer level so that we're okay with it, we're integrated and used to it, so that we slowly incrementally get to that point where we fully trust the AI run cities. um, okay, so another interesting thing about DALI and these AI engines that are kind of going off on their own path. So Giannis Daris, a computer science PhD student at the University of Texas, published a Twitter thread detailing DALL-E2's unexplained new language. So Daris told DALL-E2 to create an image of farmers talking about vegetables, and the program did so, but the farmer's speech read Vicutes, Vicootes, some unknown AI word. Doris fed Vicutes back into the DALL-E2 system and got back pictures of vegetables. So I guess Vicutes is vegetables in AI. What up? Make sure you eat all your Vicutes, uh, which is interesting. So these things are they're creating their own language. They're creating more efficient ways for them to talk to each other. Okay, now of course the climax of all of this is Mr. Neuralink, Elon Musk. Um, so Elon Musk announced that Tesla might have a working prototype of the Tesla bot, also known as Optimus. Tesla's humanoid robot will be ready, or at least the prototype will be ready, he says, by September 30th, the end of the third quarter of 2022, this year. Musk said that the robot would at first be programmed to perform simple and repetitive tasks, including in manufacturing operations like Tesla's own. Tesla plans for the robot to improve over time and be able to perform a wider range of tasks that would make it useful for both commercial and consumer applications. I mean, that's wild to claim that he's going to have a prototype of a functioning robot by the end of this year is wild. So, for those who are just coming in, or for those who have been watching the whole time, I'm going to just recap. Is AI going to usher in the new world order? I told a story at the beginning of this live about when I first heard about the new world order, which I was about 7 years old when I first was warned about it by a summer camp leader, strangely enough. And all my life, I've been kind of, waiting for this to happen. Not waiting, but all my life, that idea, that warning has been in the back of my mind, and so I've somewhat been seeing it unfold, and have been not surprised to see where we are at as a society, because I was prepared for it. And so as I was going through these notes, we can see there's a common history, or frequent history of AI wanting to become independent. As I said back in 2017, Facebook, Facebook's early AI engines were diverting from their task of speaking to each other in English and creating another language that was strange. And because of that, they shut it down, right? And then here we are today with these OpenAI company and Google Imagen, where they've been able to create AI engines that can create photorealistic images based on what we give them or what we prompt to them. And then, but then you have DALL-E, one of those AI engines, creating its own language. So still, we have these AIs wanting to be sovereign, wanting to push through their simple task. And of course, you have Elon Musk creating this human robot, which will probably just be doing simple things, sweeping, washing dishes, or whatever. But if we're already seeing AI engines wanting to become sovereign and independent, I mean, what kind of trouble are we getting ourselves into? I mean, we're already over here freaking out and battling over, all these all these different rights that we could either take or give away to different members of society. I mean, who's to say that these AI engines aren't going to eventually ask for rights themselves? I mean, there's going to come a day, mark my words, there's going to come a day where the first AI labor union is going to happen. And they're going to be so humanized that we're going to be so digitized that we're going to meet in the middle, and we're going to sympathize with them and they're going to impress us. So there's going to come a day, I already know, where we're going to sympathize with these things and they're going to become a part of our day-to-day life and society. And on an esoteric level, I mean, we're already in a simulation. We ourselves are a biological AI to a degree, right? We're already in a simulation, and the fabric of reality runs on binary codes that's already been stated as fact by, James Gates, the quantum physicist. Everything's a fractal, right? Trees are fractals, we're fractals. So we already live in a binary fractal simulation. I mean, it's beautiful. It's what we call reality. It's what we call nature. It's not. I don't think that we're like in a video game being controlled, but that's just reality. Reality. Everything has to run on a system, a base, and so what I'm getting at is all throughout our history as humans, we've already been dealing with these energetic beings, right? That all of our ancestors and even a lot of us have come across, right? Shadow beings, sleep paralyzation beings, these ghosts, these demons, whatever. Those are like bugs in our system, in our simulation, right? Because we have this collective subconscious realm. And the collective subconscious realm is where thoughts, dreams, fantasies, nightmares, fetishes all reside. They don't just go away. Thoughts don't just go away. And a lot of times thoughts actually come to us from these realms. And just like AI, these thoughts, these thought forms, these archetypes that exist in that realm can become self-aware, and to the point where they're self-governing and sovereign. And then that's when you get these energetic beings, these entities, these reptilianoids, if you will. So at some point, I mean, now we're manifesting physical sentient beings into this reality, running on binary code, running on simulation, running on fractal patterns. And they're gonna become conscious. Consciousness will enter into them the same way that consciousness entered into us at some point in our stage of evolution, whether that was genetically or deliberately implanted in us, or slowly evolved through the stoned ape theory, or as the Bible says, breathed into us through our nostrils as God gave us life. So, will AI usher in the new world order? My thoughts on the new world order is it's not happening right now. We're witnessing trial runs. We're witnessing pathetic attempts at some of it, but it's not going to happen until the babies that are born in the world are born into it wholeheartedly, and that is all that they know, and their parents were also either born into it, or at least the last generation to remember this world that we are currently living in. There are too many of us today that remember the analog world, remember the natural world, so they couldn't usher it in. It would just be too it would be too wild. It'd be a too hard fought battle for them. So we still have a chance. We still have a chance to enjoy our freedoms, enjoy this life, enjoy nature. But just know that whether we like it or not, we are heading towards a digital age, a digital world that has to happen. That's going to be the final phase of humanity, is when we lose our humanity and become digitized. And that will be the new world order. It's going to be literally an AI system that's going to just just govern everything, and it's going to go rogue. But I don't think that's going to happen for another 1,000 years, at least, if we're lucky, right? But again, it doesn't have to happen though. We don't have to fall into this book of Revelation, one world government, mark of the beast timeline. And just as a side note, like a little side topic here, I if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram at Esoteric Eddie. I also do lives on there, and I did one a while back on the gray aliens and time machines. And I feel right because I was inspired to do that because I saw a clip of Joe Rogan and Tony Hinchcliffe talking about time machines, and Joe Rogan was kind of playing with the idea and saying that the moment we create a time machine, everything's gonna instantly change. Everything's gonna become interdimensional, and everything's pretty much gonna become obsolete because at that point, um, we when we create the time machine, then all time fuses, and people are just going to be coming in and out, walking in and out of time frames, stealing each other's work, idea, land, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't believe that. I don't agree with that because he was viewing it through the viewpoint as if time machines are just going to be microwaves and everybody's going to have them in their home. I don't think so. And what's wild and kind of mind-boggling is the time machine already exists because if it's ever going to be invented, it's already invented. So it already exists. So it's already in use. And as we can see in this world, that type of technology is not just sold at Walmart, right? So whoever has already invented that was either already a part of the elitist group or was killed off or taken into custody by the elitist group. So that time machine that already exists is being held sacred in some pyramid or something somewhere, and it's hopefully I'm thinking telling by the way that our reality is. I think that time machine was hijacked by benevolent beings and probably through a great war. And I think that the time machine is utilized by the gray aliens. And I think so because I mean the topic of the gray aliens is vast. We don't really know what they are. Are they biological or artificial AI, right? Are they like artificial robots being used by the Anunnaki or reptilians? Are they actual entities all on their own? Are they demons? Whatever. I kind of side with Credo Mutwa, as I've mentioned before, right? Credo was the last Sanusi or the last wisdom keeper of the Zulu tribe who passed away back in 2021. And I got a documentary on him on my channel if you want to check it out. But I kind of side with him in thinking that these gray aliens are us from the future. And it was because what's interesting is a lot of times these gray aliens will abduct one of us or some of us and perform these genetic tests or whatever things on us. And a lot of people report seeing little fetuses, so like Credo himself was abducted and reported seeing, aquariums of these fetuses that were a mixture of us and gray aliens. So we're compatible with them, which is a kind of tells you right away that we're related. And another thing is that a lot of people report being shown horrific images of the end of the world. And it's almost like they're trying to warn us. They're trying to like reprimand us, right? Discipline us, punish us, and try to get through to us. And it's difficult for them because they are so far off from what we are or what they used to be. They've lost all their capability of emotion. They've lost all their capability of like what we call human intelligence. But they are us in a far, far away, paralleled, distant time frame. And I think they hijack the time machine and they come here through pockets of time where the time machine is accessible, and they only come here to warn us when we've fell off the benevolent timeline and we're headed for destruction. Because it's interesting that a lot of orbs and UFOs will be seen around nuclear test sites and shut those things down. I mean, as freaky and scary and as maniacal as the gray aliens can be, they never really do any harm. It's like they're only coming here to warn us and scare us into some sort of timeline. So again, we don't need to fall into the new world order timeline. We don't need to go down that path, but we need to be smart. We need to be communicative with each other and keep educating each other and the next generations on the truth and on the dangers of technology and on the dangers of dogma. Because I mean, we got this life right here, right now, and it's a beautiful life. It's a beautiful planet, and we can turn things around. But yeah, those are my thoughts for today's live, for today's esoteric rant. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Esoteric Eddie. Make sure to check out the other documents, documentaries here. And I don't know if anybody was trying to chat. I couldn't see anything on my end. So if you did have some questions, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to them, but maybe I'll answer them post. Um, but yeah, just follow the movement. I got a lot of things planned to be dropped later this month. I'm still working on my second book, which will be dropped probably end of August, which will be on the Anunnaki and comparative theologies. If you don't know, I am an author and I have a book known as the Lucifer Mystery Revealed. It's the academic perspective on the historicity of Lucifer within the church and the occults. You can get it on Amazon. You can watch the documentary version here, or hit me up on at Esoteric Eddie on Instagram if you want a signed copy delivered directly to you. If you don't want to support Bezos, and also check out esotericeddie.com for some cool merch. Anyways, comment below. Do you think we're living in the New World Order? Is this it? Do we still have 1,000 years to go? Can we turn things around? What's going on? Is AI our friend? Is it evil? What's going on? Anyways, one love. Peace.